all right, finally, let's get into this one. This is the one we all want to talk about. Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler. It was. Go on.
Well, I was going to say we didn't speak about this before because it didn't happen yet. Like before the fight leading up, like Nick wanted to change weight. The picture that came out of him kind of out of shape. That all was so because we talked about it on the show. I don't remember who you picked. I ended up picking Nick Diaz, but I was saying I'm sort of picking with my heart, right? But I was on the fence. But then that came out, dude. When Nick wanted to change weight, I was like, whoa, timeout. That was a massive red flag for me. Then the picture came out where I was like, oh, he does not look like he's ripped or in shape. We saw Nick Diaz catfished us. We saw pictures on his Instagram. He was fucking shredded. He was in bike races. He was swimming. He had an 8-pack. It was the best, most in shape Nick Diaz we had ever seen. And then the fight week came about and he wanted to change the way to the fight. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm sure you have much more insight on this. And I want to get your opinion on that even before you get into the fight, because I officially changed my pick going into the fight. I was like, I can't pick Nick Diaz now.
Yeah. Well, no, I did pick Nick Diaz, but it was not a confident pick, certainly after seeing that stuff. But you got to remember for Diaz, I don't think he catfished anybody. He just got in really good shape. He did some triathlons and then he got out of shape, right? It's easier to fall out of shape than what it is to get in shape. If you know how to get into shape, it's pretty easy. You know, you just got to have some discipline and do what's required. To get out of shape, fuck me. You might take a few months and you, wow, I'm in crazy shape. You step off the gas for a few weeks, but you can put it on straight away.
2 weeks, so, I'll be just a fat person again, like that.
Yeah. You know, it's so easy. So obviously he, I don't know what he was doing in his spare time, but he was not sticking to a keto diet, that's for sure. So he put a few pounds on. And then, of course, when he did the E&G, that's like the video stuff before your interviews for the UFC, you know, he showed him shadow boxing. And it looked a little labored, a little slow. And a lot of people were speculating about that. And I was like, all right, listen, there's different mentalities. When you do that for the UFC, some people can't be fucking bothered. And they do that, and they just do it slowly. Certainly, when they come in your locker room, it's so fucking annoying because obviously as the fight gets closer, the tension's building and you're in the locker room and the anxiety is building. You're like, oh my God. And then the UFC come in with the camera crew and they're like, okay, we'd like to just shadow box to the down the lens, please. And you're like, get the fuck out, okay? I'm trying to have my final bits of preparation, but you can't. You got to play the game. You got to be professional. You know, and some people, you do it a little slow there. Or even when you're doing the pre-fight stuff, as I was talking about with Nick, some people go really fast, you know, because they want to look cool. They want people to look at that and go, oh, he's
He's ready.
Yeah. Or they just go, like, what am I doing?
And also, Nick Diaz never looked like Nick Diaz. He has like really unorthodox, incredible boxing. You know what I'm saying? Like the thing about Nick Diaz was that he was always a little bit like, it was almost like a strange technique and pace that he would have with boxing. It didn't look like your typical UFC guy who was coming in and the way that they threw. So when I saw him shadowboxing and people were freaking out about it, I was almost like, all right, you guys are just new UFC fans, because that's sort of the way that Nick Diaz fights. That wasn't really a big red flag for me. You know, even beyond the fact that, you know, obviously Nick, he can't be bothered in the interviews, even in the post-fight speech, which we'll get into in a minute. He's just so fucking Nick Diaz. It's hilarious. But it was more the changing of the weight. The changing of the weight was like, that just means you are either not in shape or you don't want to cut the weight. And either way, that's a mental thing that I think is a huge red flag.
Well, I wasn't sure what to make of it because sometimes I understand what you're saying, and that's logical to feel that way. But you got to remember that Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz and a few others do it, you know, but they're two of the main ones, Conor to a certain degree as well. But they're just motherfuckers. They like to fuck with the system. Do you know what I mean? And they're just like, you know what? Fuck you. I don't care. I want this fight at 185 now. I want it at 185.
I love it. I love that when you put it that way.
Otherwise, it's not happening. Do you know what I mean? You got no fucking choice to either go with the punches, because you know Nick Diaz will just say, "Well, fuck it then. I don't care." So I wasn't overly. I mean, you could sit there and try and figure out what it's done, but nobody knows other than Nick Diaz, you know. And I didn't reach out to anyone in his circle. Jake Shields was tweeting some stuff yesterday, which was pretty interesting, but yeah, you just don't know. Anyway, the reality is, it sounds like, well, what he's saying is that he only had 6 weeks to train with that. Apparently, Jake Shields was saying yesterday on Twitter that, and I'm only going off what he tweeted, he said there's a lot of people, a lot of snakes, referring to his management, saying that they switched up the opponent, but Nick wasn't aware of it or something. Not the UFC, his management. This is what I'm trying to decipher from. The Crips were kind of tweets were kind of cryptic, you know what I mean? But what I've deciphered is, it sounds like, or they're saying that he didn't know it was going to be Robbie Lawler until quite soon. He didn't know the date was brought forward, which he wasn't aware of, or something like that. I'm not sure. You'll have to ask fucking Jake Shields. I'm trying to decipher what he meant out of all of it. But still, either way, he did come in at 185. He did come in looking soft, and it certainly wasn't the best version of himself at all, you know. But he said he had to kind of take this fight.
Yeah, from in the post-fight speech, he said something like that. He was being cryptic, and he said sort of like, and I assumed he was referring to the UFC, like they were fucking around, but I guess it was his management.
UFC aren't going to fuck you around like that. Yeah. You don't. You know what I mean? They're very professional when it comes to that. You get an opponent, and they want it to stick to that. And if somebody gets injured, then fair enough, that's what will happen. And if that was the case, we would have heard about it because there would have been a different opponent originally.
Of course.
You know, as I say, I don't know anything more than that. There were some tweets from Jay Shields, right? But other than that, there was no other known opponent. I know, honestly, you know, I'm a fan of Nick Diaz, you know, and I like everything about him. But how did he not know that it was? How did we know he's fighting Robbie Lawler and Nick Diaz doesn't? All you got to do is go on social media.
I mean, he could have just Googled it and he could have figured it out.
Do you know what I mean? If we know that he's fighting Nick Diaz, how the fuck does he know? Robbie Lawler, how the fuck does he not know? Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, who knows what was going on in Nick Diaz's mind? And it's part of the reason that we love Nick Diaz. You know, I am a massive Diaz fan, and I was rooting for him the whole time. Look, the fight, he delivered. You talk shit all you want. It doesn't even matter. That first round of that fight was, in my opinion, round of the year. One of the most exciting and fun rounds. I mean, these guys just didn't give a fuck, and they fought exactly how we wanted them to fight. It was incredible. So I'm not.
What is the world's most valuable resource? Water.
It's also one of the most limited.
Not hating on Nick Diaz. It's just, it becomes disappointing with the Diaz brothers and O'Connor. All these guys who are massive stars and almost outgrow like the sport, quote unquote. Because like when they stop playing by the rules, I feel like we suffer as fans because we don't see them fight as often. They're not taking it as seriously. Like I want to see Nick Diaz on a title hunt because I feel like Nick Diaz on a title hunt after what I saw on Saturday night. I still think he's really fucking dangerous and can beat almost anybody put in front of him if it's the right mentality and in shape Nick Diaz. That was wild what we saw on Saturday night. It was such a fun fight. And I know the way it ended, it was a little bit disappointing for some people. But, you know, look, Robbie Lawler also came in as a killer on Saturday night. So I think it was more a testament to how good Robbie Lawler was and he put Nick Diaz out like that and how good Nick Diaz was to be out of shape and still look that good, all things considered, after 7 years off.
Yeah, well, he still had 6 weeks to train for it. He said he only had a 6-week camp. That's still quite a significant amount of time. A typical training camp is 8 weeks, but for a lot of people, that's too long. You know, you start overtraining. So he still had 6 weeks. So whilst I agree somewhat with what you said, we can't just give him too much weight to his excuses or reasons. You know what I mean? He still had 6 weeks to train. That's still kind of a significant amount of time, if not longer. You know, I'm pretty sure we all knew that he was fighting again sooner than 6 weeks. When did the news break? I'm pretty sure it was longer than fucking 6 weeks ago. But anyway, it was a fantastic fight. I don't think he looked far from the best version of himself. He did definitely look slower, and I knew that coming in that he would be, but I thought with his timing and his experience and his skill that he would be able to negate that. Robbie was the faster guy. Robbie had a bit more pop to his shots, but the way they both fought, they both just stood in the phone booth and just went back and forth, and it was great. It was really exciting. It was fun to see. There was some creative stuff. Go on.
The fight was confirmed